Hey everyone, welcome to Alumless. I am Ryan Catherwood. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Friday, March the 1st. Hard to believe it is March the 1st already. We are cruising quickly into the spring. I am joined by Chris Marshall, who is the CEO of CMAC. On the show, we talk about alumni and donor engagement strategies and educational advancement. If you have any questions for Chris or myself, or you'd like to say hello to our special guest today, Cheryl Harrelson from the University of California, San Diego, we welcome you to do so in the chat of the LinkedIn event or where we can see your comments. And if we don't have time to answer your comments during the live show, we'll be sure to answer them in the bonus segment, which is available on the podcast edition. And it's there on the podcast edition that we actually have our Friday Cheers section of Alumless. We always talk about some things that are not about advancement, which is kind of a fun thing to do. But before we get too far into the show, I'd like to take a moment and thank our fantastic sponsor, Protopia. Protopia has created a transformational AI-powered technology that matches questions from students or recent graduates with alumni all over the world that are perfectly positioned to answer them. Without asking alumni to be mentors or participate in programs spread out over months, or sign up for an app or a platform, Protopia makes scaling introductions simple. Questions get submitted and Protopia's AI does all the work. Protopia can even target stakeholders like young alumni or lapsed donors and provide them with a meaningful volunteer experience. And who isn't trying to scale volunteerism? Visit protopia.co/alumless for more details and check out the technology that schools like Duke, Denison, Florida State, the London School of Economics are all using to engage their alumni. Well, Chris, how's it going? Happy Friday.
Good. Happy Friday. Do you guys do Rabbit Rabbit on the first day of the month in your house?
What's Rabbit Rabbit?
It's a thing my wife's family does. It's the first thing you say when you get up on the first day of each month. You say Rabbit Rabbit, and it brings you good luck. I have no idea where it comes from. But Rabbit Rabbit.
Is that Irish or Scottish? There's like a particular.
I'll research and come back to you, Ryan.
Okay. All right. Sounds like something that would be some sort of a cultural thing. The Rabbit Rabbit. Well, yeah. So we got a great show planned with Cheryl from UCSD. We're going to get into a great conversation with her. But I wanted, I guess, to kick off the conversation, starting a little bit about our value proposition as a consulting practice. I had a call the other day with a potential new client who was asking me, hey, what differentiates you all from other consulting practices? And I had a response, but I thought, why not kick off the show by, Chris, you share what is our value proposition at CMAC these days?
I want to know what you said in that sales call, but you can tell me later. I'll tell you what I would have said. But remember the old James Bond movie, and there was a theme song that said "Nobody does it better." That's us. That's
sounds about right. About all you need to say.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a hubris there, but I do think when we look at there's now 8 of us. Welcome to officially now to Patrick Auerbach. We announced it yesterday on LinkedIn that he's joined us, and he put us all together. There's no firm that has more collective experience than we have. Me personally and us all together, no one has looked under the hood of more alumni programs in the country. So those are the right of the gate first 2. But I also think, we deliver a very thorough, data-driven, bespoke product to every client. We don't do a cookie cutter, standard, cut and paste report back to each client. We do a very customized version for each one, and we deliver clear, actionable recommendations with next steps. And the other thing that I always say too is that we stay with you. We'll show you the path, but we'll also walk down the path with you. So those are what I would have said, Ryan. How did I do compared to what you said?
Yeah, well, I talked about in our emphasis on integrated advancement and thinking about that unapologetically, right? I think that's an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
I talk a little bit more about our diverse background as consultants, our digital background in career services, some additional components, but throughout your experience in higher ed, you both as a consultant and then leading alumni teams, you've had the chance to participate in case programs, but then other organizations like Pequod and CAAE, and I actually understand that folks were talking about you at the last meeting, and probably we're talking about the fact that Patrick is now part of our team because he's particularly with Pequod, was a pretty well known person there. But when you think about these organizations, these kind of guiding associations and leadership groups, what do you think about?
Yeah, the CA meeting was several weeks ago, and we announced Patrick yesterday. I'm pretty sure it was the worst kept secret during the month of February that people knew. But Pequod, CAAE, there's a SCAD, there's a NEAR, there's a whole bunch of other ones out there that do similar. The group called ARE I helped start here, Alumni Relations Exchange, here in the Northeast, and I think of them as communities of practice, and these are. Oftentimes you're dealing with the person who deals with the same stuff. I'll say it that way nicely on the webinar, the same stuff you deal with in your own job. And when you can meet with people who are dealing with those same things, you just learn a ton. So it includes data sharing, best practice sharing. And my favorite part of all of it, though, it was regular therapy to sit with people who were dealing with the same challenges I was dealing with. So that's what I like.
Kind of a camaraderie there too, right?
Say again?
Yeah. Kind of a camaraderie amongst the leadership group, and combination of some gossiping, a little kvetching here and there with a dose of best practice ideas, right?
You got it, all of the above. But it's really that the ultimate thing is that community of practice is how I think of it. Yep.
Community of practice. Well, let's bring out Cheryl to the conversation so we can chat with her a little about that. We are thrilled to introduce Cheryl Harrelson. Cheryl is the Associate Vice President for Alumni Annual Giving and Pipeline Development at UC San Diego, and she is soon to be the Vice President for University Advancement at Georgia State University, President of the Georgia State Foundation, which is awesome. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, some of your colleagues at CAAE have been on the show before, and we know some of their thoughts on the subject of engagement. How aligned or divergent were the opinions at the most recent CAA meeting? Maybe you can sort of offer us a flavor of what some of those conversations
don't disclose any
like.
Secrets, though. I know there's some
no secrets, of course, or maybe a few, right? Break some news here on Alumless.
All the secrets are locked in the vault. So thank you for that question. I actually think we're pretty aligned in what our best practices are, where we think we're going in the future, that sort of thing. I think where we diverge is asking the question, are we frontline fundraisers? Are we part of the philanthropy and all of that good stuff? And so everyone had a different opinion. But I will give you my personal opinion that we're all frontline because we are part of the model. Fundraising and philanthropy have gone together for a long time, but it's not what philanthropy means. Philanthropy is about helping those, doing for the good of others, usually expressed by dollars. But in today's time, it's about time, talent, and treasure. So if you're thinking of philanthropy in that way, we are all frontline people.
And I love to add that we also ask alumni to contribute their networks and their connections,
advocacy.
And advocacy. Yeah, we definitely, as all part of advancement, all part of philanthropy, right? And it's fundraising, a big piece of the puzzle. We are all part of that fundraising apparatus. So Chris, during our
before you go, Ryan, I'm sorry I interrupt. I told you I was going to go off script. Where is that philanthropy definition Webster's dictionary or something you picked up along the way, or just something you sort of believe at your core?
No, it's in the North American dictionary, and you can actually Google it right online, and you'll see a definition, and there are other places where you see other definitions that add that. So it has made it to the various dictionaries or what have you. In terms of what philanthropy really is.
Yep. Love it.
Cheryl, in building engagement models that focus on diverse affinity groups is something that you've been focused on and have really put a lot of emphasis in that area at UCSD. Can you tell listeners some of that work that you've been doing in that area?
Sure, absolutely. So I would say that we have at least 4 affinity groups on our campus. And the critical thing is ensuring that they feel, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this down the road, of feeling like they feel a part of and belong at the university. As I go out and talk with alumni of different groups, and it doesn't have to just mean a person of color. I hear, I don't feel like I fit in at UC San Diego. I'm not a part of that. So we have worked with groups. I'll tell you about a Black alumni group. It's not that they're an association or anything. We pulled them together for a special event, and we kept following up every quarter, and then all of a sudden they started showing up at events. They started bringing people with them because we made them feel like they're part of UC San Diego. I had to do a lot of apologizing for whatever happened in the past, and that's okay to do those sorts of things to bring people back in, letting people understand that we are not the same university today that we were 60 some odd years ago when we started. And there's a place for everyone on our campus and as a part of our alumni base.
Let's expand on that. So you and I we tell a secret here that you and I had a prep call, which most people would think we just wing this, but we actually do prepare for these with script and everything and thoughtfully consider the questions. So I really appreciate the time we had together. It was really fun to connect with you again. And in that call, you referenced it just in your last answer. You talked about the B in DEIB, the belonging, and that was a particular area of focus for you. Expand on that. Tell the audience what you shared with me, if you don't mind.
Yes. I'm going to be honest, Chris, I don't know exactly what I shared there that day, but I want to go back to what I just said. It's about everybody feeling like they belong as a part of our institution. Our alumni now, our university is so diverse at this point. I even talk with people with Caucasian who say, I was uncomfortable at UC San Diego. And so inviting people in, making them feel comfortable about the surroundings and what we do, inviting people to conversations, events, at homecoming. I started homecoming at UC San Diego about 6 years ago, and we don't have a football team. So, it wasn't about, having this big blowout in terms of football and that sort of thing. We made homecoming to fit UC San Diego. Classrooms, allowing people to sit in classrooms. So alumni come back for that. We invited parents back for Parents Weekend. We have a big Ferris wheel at homecoming. We do cornhole, all of those kinds of things. And so now everybody has gotten into it, our provost, our deans, adding to what makes a great weekend that allows everyone to feel like they are part of, or that there's something there for them to come back to. And I think that's how we've been able to get many of our alumni to return to campus or to engage with us.
Somebody once shared with me, talking about DEIB, it's sort of on that continuum. I'm not going to get it right. So if you're on the call right now, you can tell me what the right language is here, but it's diversity is being invited, making sure you're inviting everybody, inclusion, and I'm going to get it wrong, but diversity, it's inviting everybody, everyone feels welcome to come, and then when they do come, they participate. So if someone was using a dance metaphor, you get invited to the dance, they show up at the dance, and they get out on the dance floor and dance. That's what you're talking about. I love that.
That's exactly right. And that's what we need to be doing with all of our alumni, whether it's their 50th class or whether they're 1-year class. Everybody needs to feel a part of.
I love it. Love it.
Cheryl, one of the unique attributes of UCSD in the program that you all have been building there is the career services alumni engagement alignment model, which I think UCSD might have been the first or one of the first few schools in the country to sort of organize career services underneath advancement, to take advantage of the synergies there with involving alumni and getting them to participate in career-themed volunteer opportunities and programs. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. You had both of those units reporting to you through the organizational model there. What are some of the pros and cons of that model, and would you still advise other universities to align this way?
This is one that I'm on the fence about. I have loved having career services as a part of my portfolio. I'm actually in the Career Services Center today, as we're talking, but it allows you to get to know the students and understand the students so that when you're out talking with alumni and friends, you have an understanding of what you are talking about in terms of the university, not just you're hearing something from a dean or a faculty member, you're actually experiencing it with the students. I have been able to work to bring alumni and students together. And I hear alumni say, I wish I had this when I was a student on campus. We have platforms for mentoring. We have over 25,000 people on our platform. They have been able to do mentoring. We do panels. We do something called Take a Triton to Work that we created about 5 years ago. It's a one-day shadow program. And in the most recent iteration, we had about over 300 students to participate. And they get to go out for a day and shadow alumni on the job. And sometimes it leads to internships, it leads to a job, or, helping the student to understand their pathway. Faculty are teaching the theory of things. The alumni are teaching life and what actually happens out there. So, yes, I would highly recommend the partnership in it. I love it under the advancement model, but I would also say if it's in student affairs, that student affairs and alumni stop thinking of it as a territory, work together as a partnership and come together to be able to provide the students, the future alumni, opportunities so that they can survive in the next life. Yeah.
I think it's the number one campus partnership that has to be in place on whether it's in or outside the structure. Career services, enrollment, communications, athletics. There's others, but those are all really important ones.
Absolutely.
So the career services alignment, underneath academic affairs can work because you really need the faculty, the academy to acknowledge the importance of these career-based narratives for all students, not just the ones who come from parents who can push them towards the career center. And if I could go back and do one thing different in my own role, it was to your point about getting to know the students would be, I could have done such a better job of engaging alumni if I knew more about what the students were interested in as individuals. Because then I could find the alumni and say, hey, I've got a student that's really interested in X. Would you be able to help? And rather than starting with alumni and hoping to find students that are interested in their work, I think it would have been better if I could have gone the other way. Absolutely.
The critical part, Ryan, is that students are, their wheels are turning, so sometimes as a student, we've all been students before, you think the path is very straight. And we know that it's a windy road. So they have to hear many things to understand that it is just not one way. I have many students who'll come in and say, I only want to work at Google, or I only want to work at Amazon. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But you're going to have a very narrow focus on what you learn. Go look at smaller companies, see what they do, because you may be able to broaden your skills. Or there are many companies that do very similar things that Google and Amazon do. You're just not looking at that. And I think the connection with the alumni, they can gather that kind of information.
Well, I'm going to ask you about. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
No, it's all you.
Yeah,
we're going to move to asking Cheryl about her new job.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about a little bit. But talk about your career path, because I always find it fascinating. I mean, people who are in roles and move into various levels of advancement roles. So you started out, if my memory is correct, North Carolina A&T.
Yes.
Moved west. You went west, right? New Mexico. No, you say it then. Tell us your path.
I started at North Carolina A&T State University, and shout out for A&T because I got my foundation there 10 years.
Cool. Very cool.
So literally worked in every facet of advancement. Then I went to James Madison University.
Yeah.
Yes. And then to Washington State University, Pullman, Washington, then to New Mexico State University.
That's where I met you, at New Mexico.
Yes, right? Exactly. New Mexico.
Well, that's Cruces, New Mexico. You cannot get there from here.
That's right. You probably can't get to Pullman either from.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So then UCSD.
And soon, very soon, Georgia State University. I was talking to the team the other day, and I was like, there's no particular major, there's no particular school or what have you to get in this business. You can be introverted, you can be extroverted. You have to be willing to do the work. And I have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of advancement over the last 30 years and being a part of the relationships and all that goes with advancement.
This new move, it's going to be in May. I think May 1, you start in your new role. Was it to be the VP again, going back, or was it to move back towards family? I mean, a combination of things for this last step?
It's a combination of things. I have a very strong faith. So this came out of the blue. I wasn't looking. And I was like, okay, this is divine intervention. Yes, I get closer to home. Even though I'm a UCLA grad, I was born and raised in North Carolina. So it's closer. My mom is excited that I'm coming closer to her. But Georgia State is up and coming as well. And if you look at the things they've been doing over the last few years, they have a new president, and I'm looking forward to building my own team as an advancement team and teaching them some of the things that I have learned over time that makes advancement successful.
Awesome. Well, it's hard to believe that the cross-country trip back to Georgia is coming upon you May 1st. Is that right?
So actually, it has been backed up a little bit. April 29th is when I'm going to start, because May 1st is commencement. May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is commencement. So we decided to back it up a couple of days just about a week ago.
So what do you think are some of the challenges that you're going to face early on as you adopt to that new role?
Patience. We all want everything to happen now. And advancement is a build, stabilize, grow business. And it takes everyone getting on board for that to happen. Georgia State was a commuter school 20 years ago. And now it's a full-fledged campus experience, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to have to work with alumni in terms of, more than 20 years ago, they were not part of that excitement, that experience. But what I understand is they love the campus, and how do we draw that love out to what the campus is today? So I'm one who loves for things to just happen. I have a lot of patience, but as I get older, I'm like, my patience is getting smaller. So I've just got to have patience and build things the right way.
Yeah, I have several clients recently who fit similar description. One comes to mind right away. UNC Charlotte could almost say verbatim what you just said about their history. 20 years ago and older, they were almost all commuter, and over the last 20 years, they've become very, even Temple University to some degree has a similar history. So there's definitely patterns out there we can look at and see who's figured it out. But you're right, it's a huge challenge to get those folks that came and went, very transactional experience versus the people having the campus experience now.
Yeah, and there's different eras of experience, in most universities, which is one of the unique aspects of our work across the board. When you've got, a school that goes through a name change, or maybe it absorbs another campus, right? Or maybe there was an era where a president, or the leadership team was not particularly, and they weren't investing in engagement in alumni.
Yes.
And now you're trying to do a new job where you're adapting not just to the new place, but all these different eras of experiences and how those eras kind of changed people's views of the university, which is definitely part of the challenge that we face as professionals.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Did you have, last question, and then we'll sign off for our live show. Did you have a connection with Georgia State? I know you said you're from that area. You said it kind of came out of the blue.
It came out of the blue, and thank you to Whit Kiefer to helping me. I've had people to contact me. I just hit 7 years on the 21st at UC San Diego, year completion. So, I think it was divine intervention. It was the right timing. I've had people call me before, and I'm like, nope, I got too many things to do here. But I feel like I'm leaving UC San Diego in a great place, built a lot of good relationships, built a good team who can carry on the work that we've developed together, and I can go help someone else.
Well, congratulations on all you've accomplished at UCSD, and we'll be rooting for you as you take on the reins at Georgia State. Chris, who are we going to have on the next Alumless before we record our bonus segment with Cheryl?
It'll be our third guest from the UK, I think, Ryan, if I remember correctly. But she's in the UK right now. But the fabulous Nicole Kempton, who I met at Duke University. She was the chief of staff to Dave Kennedy in the advancement operation, and is a phenomenal thinker, a great writer. I mean, I've seen so much work that I'm just so impressed. And we asked her to come do some work with us through CMAC, and she's already hitting the ground running, and she's got some really great experience. She's a Duke alum and worked at Duke for many years, and has a lot of advancement background through Duke, but she sees the world, and just a fantastic person.
Yeah, I'm excited to highlight one of our newest team members on Alumless in 2 weeks' time. So that'll be fantastic. All right. Well, thank you for those of you watching on LinkedIn or YouTube for doing so, whether that's today on Friday or a different time. And for those of you who are listening to this audio only on the podcast edition, stay tuned for the second half of our interview with Cheryl Harrelson from UCSD. We'll be right back.
I'm applauding